Welcome to the SDR Accelerator podcast. According to recent industry data, the average on-target earnings for small medium business account executives is $4,500 a month higher than that of SDRs. What's crazy about that is LinkedIn is full of SDRs stuck in their role for 2, 3, even 4+ years. And so my goal is to help SDRs make the jump to an AE role as fast as possible. On this podcast, I interview successful account executives to uncover how they made the leap from SDR to AE, sharing the right moves to make and the pitfalls to avoid, all to help you land that promotion in under 18 months. And today we're diving into a success story with Xander Starzmann. He was an SDR at Couchbase for, I think, around 19 months before becoming account executive today, or before becoming account executive there. And now he's a corporate AE there at Couchbase. How's it going today, Xander?
That's good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Just first question, I always like to ask, what made you get into tech sales? Yeah, I guess, and then what drives you today? But yeah, start off with like what made you get in tech sales?
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer it a little bit longer than potential, but yeah, so I actually was pre-med back in college, and
Me too.
I found initially, oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, initially the reason I was pre-med is I love the absorption of knowledge. I know that
Mhm.
sounds kind of nerdy, but I love when you can learn so much about something and explain it to people and then be like, what is that? What? Like
Mhm.
that's the craziest thing ever. And I always loved that feeling. And I ended up getting a summer job while I was in pre-med, and I was doing like apartment sales, community
Mhm.
assistant, marketing associate, whatever you call it. And I loved like showing people our quote unquote product, even though it was just a space to rent and all of that. I loved talking on the phones. I loved, building relationships with people and trying to get them in the door. And through there, I was like, you know what? I kind of realized that I had a reflection point where I've always been a very talkative person and I wanted
Mhm.
to kind of do something more people oriented. And so I ended up switching my minor to marketing and stuck with the pre med path, but really focused on public health and then minored in marketing, where I did sales at that job as well.
Mhm.
And then I had a friend who worked at the company I do now, and he recruited me here, kind of showed me the rings and told me about the product. And when I realized that even to this day, after being with the company for over 2 years, I'm still learning about it,
Mhm.
it just was kind of like a light off in my head. And I was like, this is going to be a cool place to work. So that's what really brought me to tech sales specifically.
Wow.
I guess a little path there. And yeah, was that the full
Yeah,
question?
yeah, yeah. I just think I think it's really cool. I also on top of that, like the nice thing is you don't have to be in school till you're like 28, so that's
Right,
another
right.
that's another blessing. Uh, and then
100%.
and then I guess yeah, what drives you today? Like I know you said you like absorbing knowledge, but like
Yeah.
when you think about your why, what is that? What gets you up in the bed in the morning?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I definitely never want to be complacent.
Mhm.
And the other thing is I want to make a mark on, I guess, just my life. Like I want people to remember me for some scenario, right? Whether that be 50 years from now and people are sitting down, they're like, oh, I remember that first sales job I had. I worked next to Xander. He did
Mhm.
XYZ very well. And I think there's like a lifestyle that everyone likes to live. And I want to be proud of the work that I put in.
Mhm.
And so I think that kind of hungry drive really allows you to be a good salesman because you're a hunter, right? There's
Mhm.
there's something you're going after, you're chasing it, you're getting there.
Mhm.
100% what drives me today.
Okay, so it's more about just like it's kind of like making sure you want to do a good job at work so that you leave an impact.
Like a self-fulfillment thing.
Yeah.
And I also think that on the other side of the coin, it's also very cool to get that self-fulfillment from solving people's issues and like fixing their needs.
Mhm.
Like coming to someone and like a large corporation has an issue with their architecture, and it's kind of a simple fix in layman's terminology, but finding like the small integrations that you can do that make a large lasting impact on an organization is really cool as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, getting into the meat of it, what walk me through your process of what it was like
Yeah.
jumping from an SDR to AE. And I guess
Yeah.
before we get into it, did you know day one? I know you said you kind of like found this company through a friend, but like, did you know you wanted to be an account executive right when you started, or that was just something you kind of like realized after
Yeah.
you were an SDR?
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely knew I wanted to be a sales rep. And I think,
Mhm.
SDR definitely has a level of sales to it, right? And I think some people like to look at it as more of a marketing job. Some people like to look at it as a sales job. I think it's the perfect unison of them both.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't quite the sales rep mentality persona that I wanted to fulfill. But I knew like day one walking in and seeing it was like, it's almost funny. It's like going into, I guess, when you're a pledge in a fraternity, right? You like
Mm-hmm.
show up, you're kind of sitting there your first day and you look over across the office and you see all the sales reps and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, like, can I talk to them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of like that cool little, offset between the two senses. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to be the dude that sees my name on closed business. I want to see the guy that brings a cool deal and potentially even makes it to President's Club, right? It's always
Yeah.
something to do. So yeah, I would say I definitely knew day one I wanted to be an account executive. It also sounds way cooler than just like sales rep, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But
For sure.
yeah, and then you asked about the path too, right?
Yeah, well, I guess before that, I just kind of want to know,
Yeah.
like, did you want to, I guess, so you knew you wanted to be account executive,
Mhm.
sales rep. Did you, like, walk me through how you decided if you wanted to promote internally versus, look externally. I know you've specifically promoted internally, but like, what was your
Mhm.
thought process there of like, how do I know if I should stay versus I think that's what a lot of people work through is like, should I stay in
Yeah.
my current role or should I try to go be an SDR somewhere else or make a diagonal jump to AE somewhere else? Like, how
Mhm.
did you think through that?
Yeah, so I think there's a personal aspect for me that's kind of individual. And then there's another aspect of just the industry as a whole, right? So
Mhm.
for me individually, my mom actually has been with the same company since the day she graduated college. So
Mhm.
she's worked for a company for 30 something years. Excuse me. And that's always been something that kind of drove me. And I was like, it'd be really cool to just start somewhere. And then when you see that Nike CEO today started
Yeah.
out as an intern, right? Everyone knows
Yeah.
about that story. It's like, that's something that's really cool. And I think it's
Mhm.
cool to be passionate about a product for your whole life and really
Mhm.
grow with the company. So I think I was always interested in staying at the same company. And then looking at the industry side of things, I think whether you are actively looking at other places and talking to people, or you just kind of have someone come across your LinkedIn, you have a quick message back and forth. I think the one thing that always is missing when you're an SDR to making that jump to an AE externally is
Mhm.
experience, right? It's
Yeah.
like you're going to run into that all day long is, well, you don't have any closing experience. You don't have any closing experience, right?
Mhm.
I think that'll kind of lead into some more of the process when we start talking to that sense. But making sure you can check off certain boxes
Mhm.
makes it a lot easier for those that are trying to make a jump externally. But no, I mean, I've always enjoyed working at where I'm at, and I definitely think that it's a place that I'd like to be
Mhm.
and continue to work at. So um, external wasn't really a conversation for me specifically, but I definitely know the people that did make the jump externally, and I think it's really just um, it's easy to get frustrated with certain places that you're at. It's also
Mhm.
easy to see a quick jump right to make that next thing. And I think tech is very easy to, if you have the right conversations, meet the right people, it is really easy to like laterally jump up the ladder, right, and find your
Mhm.
way to the next spot, the next spot, the next spot. But
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense, and I love that a personal story. Maybe you'll be the CEO one
yeah,
day.
who knows?
uh, And then, yeah, if you could walk me through like, what was the actual, internal process required
Yeah.
to jump? Because like I think that's one of the hardest jumps in tech sales, which is why I want to help
Hmm.
people get there is like jumping from SDR to AE from basically, no closing experience to being a
Hmm.
closer. How did you, or I guess, what does the process look like at your company to kind of get there?
Yeah, so I think some companies have a lot more formal and a lot more informal. It just depends on where you find
For
yourself.
sure.
For us, we do have a formal jump, but it's always the two things that you got to fill are the timing and the experience, right? So have you been an SDR long enough, shown up day in, day out, done enough for the company, brought in, revenue?
Hmm.
And then the other side is, are there spots open on the team, right?
Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
think a lot of people are like, well, I've been at this company for 2 years, but the AE team is full. It's like,
Hmm.
it's not a you thing. Unfortunately, it's just there's no business need for you to jump up.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of people, especially coming out of college and being an SDR, even if you're just moving to the tech industry, it's
Hmm.
not as quite easy to just make the move. For me specifically, I did run into that, right? The
Hmm.
team was full. The team was full again. The team was full again, right?
Hmm.
And I also didn't have much of that experience. So I personally had to take a step back, and I definitely recommend this for just anybody trying to make any jump to the next level. Slowly increasing the actual things you do day to day that would be aligned to what you would do as an AE, right? So if you're an SDR, you're going to be aligned to an AE. It's whether it's a field AE, whether it's an inside sales AE, you're going to be aligned to someone. You're going to be helping like find net new customers to talk to, net new prospects, sorry. And so for me, I was like, well, how can I improve my day-to-day rather than just sitting on the phone and making calls, right? And so that started out with me taking actual qualification meetings, right? So I would take the pipeline that I generated and I would turn it into an actual first meeting, and then I'd sit and I'd talk through the product, and I would learn, in the meetings I was sitting on with the AE. And so it was really easy for me to kind of mirror that. And then once I started kind of doing more things in the AE mindset, right? And even walking customers from stage, 1 to 3 to 5, right? Talking all the way up to the pricing point, because I didn't have frontal facing and the pricing, so I couldn't really talk to them about all of that. But I would walk customers to a certain point and drive, from pipeline to growing to actually hopefully turning it into forecasts, right? But in doing so, that kind of built my case of, hey, I do understand the level of what it takes to be an account executive. I've had XYZ conversations past just the, hey, you want to sit down for a 30-minute meeting?
Why'd you do this last weekend? Yeah.
Oh, how are things? Right. So for me, that's kind of the path that I took. And I definitely will say there are always people that you're going to run into that are like, well, I've been here for 2 years. Why am I not promoted? And it's like, well, have you talked to anybody? No. Right. And that's the other thing. Make sure you're talking to your leaders, right? Like, hey, I am driven. I want to be here. Here are some of the steps that I'm taking, right? And if you have a good manager, a good leader, like, I mean, I definitely have had great leaders in my time, right? And so having those people and building a case to them, it shows that you're driven. And that's exactly what people in a sales org want. And you'll start to have, you build a champion and a sales rep, but it's like people often forget you can build a champion for yourself in your own company, right? And when you have someone that's a higher level, right, and they like you, you'll definitely be able to make some change for yourself. So I think kind of covering all the aspects of internal stuff, external stuff, your own mental stuff, right, and just keeping calm and carrying on and doing more things. That's kind of what's going to drive that process. And then through there, I filled those roles, I filled those needs that weren't really open on the team sense, right? And then the second there was a team sense, put my hat in the running. I was like, look, this is what I've been doing. And luckily I had really, really good champions and leaders that supported that transition. And that's kind of what happened for me.
That's super, super helpful advice, because I mean, it's kind of like you're kind of taking both things, which is like control what you can control, right? And so,
exactly.
but like, and to your point is like, you can't control an opening. You can't create a business need. You're not the CRO.
Right.
However, you can, what you can do, and this is more than just like booking meetings, is like doing the next role already. What you can do is basically show everyone in advance, like, hey, when a spot comes open, I'm there for it. And so I really like the fact that even what you mentioned about like, well, even just this concept of improving and then like doing more of the AE role, and then actually, to your point, being in communication with leaders so that they actually can see the feedback, see you implement the feedback that they ask. Like, nothing can be more convincing to someone. And like, who are you going to take, the SDR who's like already almost doing the job, or some external hire who could be lying about the resume? It can be like a no-brainer. So it makes a lot of sense. One question I had on that though. How do you, this is often common, like, how do you get buy-in from your AEs to let you, let you actually own more of this process? Because understandably, a lot of these AEs, like, they're proud of their business and they don't want to jack up a potential deal. So how did you build that trust?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that, because there's another point that I wanted to touch on, right? So one is be comfortable with talking on the phones in front of everybody and sharing, like, if you have call recordings or something like that, right? Making sure that your AE knows what you're talking about, right? That you're not going to show up and be like, so why are you, right? It's like you have actual focused discovery questions, and you know how to get someone to answer certain questions and find, a path in. That's super important. The other thing is for those of you that are listening and are SDRs still and want to make that jump, if you may not realize yet, is your account executives are making account plans, right? They're finding a company, a target company that they want to dive into, and they're building out the personas to talk to, what's going to make sense for them, different areas to drive in conversation, right? If you can go ahead and build an account plan, right, and be like, hey, I took the liberty, don't go after an account your AE is already going after. You know how to prospect, you know how to find certain companies and people, right? So find a company that you aren't, or ask your AE, hey, is there a company that you're interested, but you haven't put the work in there yet? Would you be okay if I, made an account plan for that just to test my knowledge, see if I'm capable of doing it? Would you be okay with that, right? And I'm sure that most AEs, especially if they're a good one, they want to see you grow too. I mean, the SDR that I'm aligned to, I want to see him get really far.
And it's less work for the AE if you do a good job.
Exactly, right? It's like anyone who says that, it's like, what? So yeah, just test the waters. And the thing is I think everyone knows this quote, but it's like the answer is always no if you don't ask, right? You got to ask, you got to be confident in yourself. You're in a sales role. You've got to be confident to be in a sales role. Bring that confidence to the people that you actually work with every single day. So definitely building out account plans and sending call recordings or showing people the talk track that you have, so they know that you know what you're talking about and you can actually demonstrate it in a physicality rather than just explaining it to someone. And that's also a really good help for the jump into the AE role, is showing your leadership, like, hey, I've built account plans. Like, I know how to work through an account. I know how to micro-thread or multi-thread, sorry, not micro-thread. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, and even with AI now, like there's no excuse not to be doing that stuff. It's like easier than ever to put account plans together and come in with the point of view. But putting it on a slide deck that looks pretty, that'll give you bonus points. It's all about impressions.
Minor in marketing.
Exactly. Okay. Maybe you touched on this with kind of like already, but what do you feel? It's difficult to promote, and there's often going to be tons of more SDRs applying for openings than there are openings. That phrasing didn't make any sense. There's often a lot. There's not usually not enough headcount for the number of SDRs that are eligible. That's a better way of saying it. What do you feel that what do you feel like you did differently than your peers? / like what are you uniquely good at? What were you uniquely good at as an SDR?
Yeah, so two things to that. I think one is the difference between the spray and pray method and the sniper method. That's what I call what I do, right? So I think a lot of people focus on the KPIs, right? How many calls you make in a day, how many emails you make in a day. But at the same time, is you have a quota to hit and there's other ways to hit your quota. And I think certain people do either one good, right? So there's no right or wrong way, but this is what I did different. So people were so focused on making the 50, 60, 75 calls a day, whereas I was focused on, instead of spam calling people, I had the emails going through, I had the LinkedIn messages going, in my sequences. But when it came to calling, I put the extra effort into reading someone's skill set, reading the places that people have been, looked at the tech stack that people have used at other companies, right? And I was like, well, how do we find ways in that would relate to them, right? Like, hey, I saw you used to work in NoSQL, right? Or I saw you used to, use XYZ. How was that for you? Or how is it? Are you still utilizing those tools today? Oh, you're not. Like, well, what are you guys utilizing? Oh, blah, 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 right? So really making sure you understand where someone's at, right? Someone's LinkedIn tells a story. And it's like, whether they're software developer fresh out, right? And they're just starting their career, or whether they're a CTO, is that there's a story to be told, and you can actually tell it through the technology that they're using, right? I mean, technology has been around since the 70s, right? I mean, like Oracle, for example, I forget the exact date, but and it's constantly adapting, it's constantly changing. Like AI is the thing today, and that's something that probably people in the 70s didn't even think about. So learning people's stories and finding ways that kind of relate to why you're calling. When you call someone, definitely, I think it's easy to be like very question oriented, very broad question oriented. But the thing that I did separately in that sense too was giving people a list of like, hey, I have been following your company for a while. I had a couple of ideas of ways that I thought we could enhance your business. Are you open to hearing about them? Right. the thing is if someone says no, they probably were always going to say no,
Yeah.
right? It's like it saves you the time, right,
Hmm.
to allow you to put that more focus to it. They say yes, you tell them, and if you do your research right, you'll strike a nerve with them for sure. You'll
Yeah.
definitely get through to
Hmm.
them, and they'll be like, sure, why not take 20 minutes to learn about something I've never learned about before.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing is,
Sorry, just to interrupt, I'm just curious. Was that on a
yeah, yeah,
like on a cold call? You'll
oh
basically
yeah.
tell them like I have ideas to improve business, and they say sure. And
Hmm.
you have 20 minutes on the cold call, or you book a meeting for.
Oh, no, no, no,
Oh,
for the
okay.
meeting, right?
I
So
was like,
I
yeah,
was pretty good at getting
yeah,
people, like I've had 30-minute phone calls before,
yeah,
100%. But typically it would stay between 5 and 10 minutes, but really
yeah.
just driving that value, right? Finding a quick value, but you're not going to find a quick value asking 10 questions for 5 minutes, right? The
Hmm.
value is, hey, I already thought about the things that I
Yeah.
would ask you. I thought about areas. Are you open to hearing about them? And if someone says yes, well, then they're open to hearing about them, right?
Hmm.
And then you take that, you tell them
Gotcha.
areas that you think could enhance, and then it's a little bit different of a conversation. So sniper experience is putting the
Hmm.
time forward into researching and really knowing how you're going to find
Hmm.
areas of entry, rather than just, hey, I'm calling from whatever. Can I borrow 5 minutes? It's like, I
Hmm.
mean, sure, right? I mean, how
Yeah.
many times are you going to get a phone call that says, hey, I'm calling from whatever. I'm calling
Yeah.
from Toyota Supercenter. Can I borrow
Yeah.
5 minutes? It's like,
Yeah.
no, dude.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is organization, right? I think a lot of people just with the spray and pray, it's also really hard to keep your notes um, jotted down and organized. It's really hard to like follow through all the
Hmm.
conversations that you're having or all the people that didn't pick up. And it really helps you focus like, hey, I had this conversation 5 months ago. I gave
Hmm.
the guy value. He said they're not making any changes right now. But I called
Hmm.
him again 3 months later and I have all my notes. Hey, I don't know if you remember me. We talked about XYZ. Wanted to check in with you. You know what? Funny you reach back out. I am dealing with that now,
Hmm.
right? So organization is really big. And then I think for me specifically is um, that I was a sniper and not a spray and pray.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I guess I have a question around that. Like, do you
Mm-hmm.
still, I imagine you still do outreach even though you're an AE now, or is it
Oh yeah, of course.
okay? And do you have like, is it like a few strategic accounts or a pretty large amount?
I have a lot. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Okay. So
growth
you're
in
very
market.
much in the like basically hunter mentality still. Okay, that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So going off of that, I'm curious since like your outreach is still, the skills you learned as an SDR are still relevant today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%.
With the personal, like you hear with AI, personalization at scale,
Mm-hmm.
all these things, one of the things I'm like concerned about just for the future of
Mm-hmm.
doing outreach is, and probably everyone's concerned about is like,
Mm-hmm.
if everyone's getting personalized, nothing will, because AI can like take so much information and personalize it. If
Right.
everything's personalized, nothing will be. How are you, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, uh, I didn't plan to ask this question, but like, how are you
No,
using
you're good.
AI to, um, I guess, maybe break through the noise and or how are you making sure that you just don't sound like you, or even if you did use ChatGPT, like, how do you make sure that you can break through the
Yeah.
noise these days?
I think it's good to always be yourself. I think
Hmm.
regardless of whatever area you're in,
Hmm.
for me, if I use anything AI related, it's more on the research side of things. It's not so much on the messaging side. I like to be myself,
Hmm.
right? And I think that if you're a salesman, you're going to sell to people because of who you are,
Hmm.
not because of who you're trying to be or not because of how professional you sound, right? Like
Yeah.
you just got to be real and you got to
Hmm.
cut through that glass or the fog, whatever you want to call it, the smoke.
Hmm.
And you really just got to be yourself. So I would definitely say that people should use it in a assistant for research, right? Like
Hmm.
looking into a company, let's just put ChatGPT, for example. Like they know a lot about a company. I mean,
Yeah.
they can take all the sources that a company releases, right?
Hmm.
And just spit out information that's important to you. And you can also relate it to the product that you're selling and really focus on your talk track. But the talk track should always be you. It should be
Yeah.
yourself.
I like that a lot. And I think like unfortunately AI is getting better at sounding like real humans, but
Oh yeah.
there's something wrong about am I too of just like outsourcing
Hmm.
your own like words to something else. Like
Hmm.
it's good to be authentic and it's good to stand behind like, the words that you write. It's like
Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
that's really good. Okay.
Also, if you get
Oh, go
stuff
for
like
it.
written that's not from the word of your mouth, right? It's like,
Yeah,
how are you going to explain it? It's like
exactly.
people are going to ask you a question. Oh yeah, type on ChatGPT real
Yeah.
quick one more time. It's like,
It's super inauthentic.
yeah.
So I appreciate that. Okay. One question I have for you is, what if you could go back in time, what would you have
Mhm.
done differently, if anything?
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I'll just kind of leave that open-ended. It could include things like maybe join a different company. Probably it sounds like you have a good route, so probably not that. But like,
Right.
what would you have done sooner there? Or yeah, I guess what would you have done differently if anything?
Yeah. Um, I think for me specifically, I often forgot about doing the AE job
Mm-hmm.
and then thinking about the actual close and the AE job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, how do we get people to show up to the second call? How do we get people to find value in the third call, right? And I was always like value focused,
Mm-hmm.
but I never got to the point of like, well, what value focused beyond just them knowing the product and loving the product, what gets them to actually buy the product, right? And so it was really easy for me to be like, oh, hey, I have a qualified call, a qualified meeting. We're doing, like a technical deep dive, but I didn't wasn't involved in the actual number side of things. I would definitely start to familiarize yourself with what the AE deals with in the commercial side of things. Like, hey, price of different things, any kind of areas, like try to get involved in those conversations and just see if you can sit in on them, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure, like we said earlier, a good AE is going to want your success as well, or
Mm-hmm.
at least help you build in your career. And so ask your AE to be involved on those past calls. Like, hey, this is what a pricing call sounds like. This is what an actual like close call sounds like. Like, hey, sent it to legal, did it get
Mm-hmm.
approved or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big thing that I would have done differently. And I think I would recommend that to any SDR today. A lot of people think about fulfilling, oh, I got to make my calls for the day. I got to do this for the day. And then when they're ready to be an AE, they're like, okay, well, now I'll start sitting in on XYZ calls. But then they still don't sit in on those. And you're already setting yourself back. I would say,
Mm-hmm.
first couple months in, learn the product, learn the talk track, learn how to get there. The next quarter, after you have a full quarter in seat, be like, hey, I want to be involved on sitting in on those calls and learning that. Then try to see if you can lead some of those calls and then be involved in the further calls, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
never going to be able to lead the actual sale conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because that's not your
Angle.
gig.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Gotcha. So just to clarify, I just want to make sure I hear what you're saying, which is
yeah,
like
yeah.
understand, like if you could, what you would recommend, what you would have done sooner is familiarize yourself more with the end stages of the deals,
Mm-hmm.
because that would
100%.
actually make you a lot better in those earlier cycles instead of just focusing on like, how do I get this? How do I get to this? How do I get this to the next step? It's more about like, how do I get this to the finish line, kind of thing. Is
Mm-hmm.
that right?
I think that's very well put.
Okay.
Also, like, um, it's easy to focus on how to be an AE,
Mm-hmm.
but it's hard to focus on how to be a successful AE, right? And a lot of people forget that. Or I guess not hard to focus on. It's just when you're trying to get to the next role, you're like, well, what do I need to do? What does that look like? And so
Mm-hmm.
you're like, well, here's what an AE does, but you don't really think about the actual in conversations of, well, what does a successful AE look like? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what does the actual close look like, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how do those conversations go? Because those are the most valuable. That's what makes someone a sales rep. Realistically, you kind of are an SDR for the first couple of stages. I mean, you're talking to someone, qualifying them, and trying to figure out how it fits into their product.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than an initial phone call. It's just a
Yeah.
longer process.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Really
Mm-hmm.
good advice. And then of course it implies that you have, like you said, AEs that are willing to let you join
Oh
in
yeah.
on those calls and stuff. But just again highlights the importance of having a good account
Mm-hmm.
executive. Okay. And then let's see. Last question I have for you. What were the highest leverage activities you did as an SDR? Basically things that maybe didn't require a ton of effort, but had like a
Mm-hmm.
massive um, had a massive impact for you, and ideally something that's kind of actionable, something that someone listening to this
Mm-hmm.
could like implement today. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
high leverage activities, or one.
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely, I mean, this isn't going to be my full answer to this, but I definitely think organization will always come into key. Like you
Mhm.
definitely need to make sure like have a clean organized desk. I know it sounds weird, like make sure your desk is organized. You only have like a singular notebook, or if you do online note taking, keep that open. That will obviously start you out for a good day. Also, if you have like actionable tasks for the day, like plan them out, time crunch them, make sure that you're doing things accordingly and getting your stuff done, and always leave time at the end of the day to look back at the day and say, hey, this is what I did, but this is what I forgot to do. And then make sure you have time at the beginning of the day to finish what you forgot to do, right? There's so many things that you have to do. You're the initial of a business, right? And I think a lot of people also that are, I don't want to say like not good people, but they also think like SDRs are like, bottom of the food chain, like certain, but like they really help the business run, right?
Yeah,
Like SDR is a
100%.
very, very important job. They find business, right?
Yeah.
And so you are helping run the business as an SDR. So making sure that you're always organized, but then keeping your actionable items in front of you and not losing track of things, that's going to be very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And then allowing the tools that you have to work for you, right? So if you have, a sequencer, right, or something that sends emails or LinkedIn messages, put the extra time forward to make them solid, make those
Mm-hmm.
messages
Mm-hmm.
solid, right? And then it will work for you. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to do anything besides press start,
Yep.
send the emails. And that's really important too, is you always got to think smarter, not harder, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
if you just put the extra step in before time, it's going
Mm-hmm.
to make the end goal a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. I love both of those tips. I think almost every single person, I think you're probably the fifth, I think person
Mm-hmm.
I've chatted with on this podcast, and it seems like I keep hearing that of like at the end of the day or beginning of the day, whatever it is like organize, the 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 next day and like make sure everything's organized. I think having everything
Exactly.
clean and like it just brings so much clarity because I think it's a stressful job. There's a lot of anxiety, and so having
Mm-hmm.
things orderly um and just like knowing what you need to get done that day and then the next day just takes so much anxiety, in the evenings away and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff and just like gives you a lot of clarity. So I love that. And I also, this is something that I think um, I pride myself in as well, is like you said, like taking the time up front to learn the things that are gonna like, if you're gonna, like you said, having a sequence that you might send out, hundreds of times or 50 times something,
Mm-hmm.
spending like an hour to like make everything look really good and like logical up front is gonna have pay massive dividends than just like winging it and then you just don't see good results down the line. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
And especially
Exactly.
with all these AI tools coming down the line and all these companies buying AI tools, that it just becomes more and more important to learn the new stuff
Mm-hmm.
and actually take advantage of them. So makes a
Mm-hmm.
lot of sense. Well, thank you so much, Xander. I know you
Of
have a
course.
busy day, so appreciate the time and hope you have a wonderful weekend and really enjoyed this time chatting with you.
Yeah, likewise. I appreciate you having me. And then, yeah, if anyone ever has any questions, feel free to reach out.
All right. Thanks, Xander. Hope you have a good one.
Likewise, Thomas. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you so much for checking out the SDR Accelerator podcast. If you're interested in receiving personalized guidance to help implement what was discussed on the episode, feel free to check out the SDR Accelerator School community. You'll get personalized sessions to help you map out your career and life goals, weekly Q&A sessions, workshops, AI consulting, accountability groups, and access to some of these account executives I'm interviewing, as well as myself. You can check out the link in the description below and hope to see you soon.